right now. Whoops. Thank you, Joe. Um, so you see that I'm currently standing in what soon will be a new living room and a new kitchen. So Neil and I are having great spiritual practice. It's called renovations. Sometimes spiritual practices are meditation, sometimes spiritual practices are non-judgment, and sometimes spiritual practice is renovation. And this is a new spiritual practice for me, and I am embracing it as consciously as possible. So this is normally the time where we do a little meditation, but I have decided to do something else. As a white woman and a woman who cares, I want to just keep us. I'm not asking you to do anything at this time except to be conscious, but I'm going to speak into the room. Oh, by the way, you see that ripped up wall there, right there on the side of my video? My grandson did that. I let him beat up the wall because we're knocking it down. Anyway, I digress. Another spiritual practice as a grandmother. I want you to speak the name Ronald Green out loud wherever you are. Just speak it right now. Ronald Green. And what I want to present to you in the room, want to get present to you in the room, for those of you who might not be aware, 2 years ago, this 49-year-old gentleman who should have just been either ticketed or arrested was horrifically beaten, tased, handcuffed, and then died. And the police lied to the parents, telling the parents that he died in a car accident, when indeed it was not that. Now, I'm not going to go into some long thing about this today. I'm going to stay conscious and I'm going to stay doing my work, but I'm going to constantly invite you to join me. And my hope and dream is that because you are part of this community, you care enough to stay conscious. And just to give you a little heads up, we will be doing another round of Healing the Divide. It won't start until September. We're going to do it in a different way. We are going to be training and empowering people to have small groups. So you are going to be very much a part of this. So whether in Mexico with the Banowitzes and the Frichettes, or in Calgary, up in Calgary, Canada, or wherever you hail from, you are going to be invited to identify and invite people into the conversation so that you could be part of the change through love and through conversation. And so all I want you to do today, if you will, please, is stay present to that. Just stay present that we're not done yet. Let us not relax because there's currently there's not a lot of active, there's no news, okay? There's no big news, which is a good thing. Also, I want to tell you something that's going to happen. This is for Tamika and Marsha and Lee and maybe the Capiellos. I am going to do a 4-week 4 agreements for non-adults. So anyone non-adult and younger, I'm going to do a 4-week 4 agreements thing, and I'm going to gather with you to decide when we're going to do that. I'm going to do a very simplified version. They're going to be a 30-minute gathering, so the children don't have to try to tolerate the conversation for longer. But I'm here to tell you that my 25-year-old son, when he was a child, knew the agreements, and it benefited his life so tremendously that still today he's reaping the benefits of knowing this as a very young man. So, and I'm hoping that you join us and maybe invite other people with children to join us. In addition, on Monday, Neil reminded me, you're right, Neil, it's Memorial Day weekend, so I'm going to have to change the date. Monday, let's say 2 Mondays from now, which will be June 7th, I'm going to do a grandmother's gathering. So if you are a grandmother, I'm going to ask you to come together and be with me and let us talk about the love of being a grandmother and how the world benefits because of our wisdom and our love and our want to protect our grandchildren. So just keep these things in mind. You'll hear more about it. I will change the date because I didn't realize it was Memorial Day weekend, believe it or not. I've only been on the planet 64 years. You think I'd know by now. Anyway, so I'm very excited that we continue to do the textbook. Today's chapter is on causes and conditions. Is that the name of the darn thing? What is the name of it? Yes, causes and conditions. And this is I commend all of you who have been in conversation on S.O.M Sunday at 9 o'clock in the morning. I do not just commend the practitioners who facilitate it, but those of you who show up. Because sometimes, and I think this morning we realized, sometimes we're left like scratching our heads saying, what did he mean? And this teaching is not obvious. It is not obvious. You cannot read this beloved textbook and immediately know the teaching. You cannot read that textbook and think you understand Ernest Holmes. You must take it in little bite-sized pieces, and you must chew on it, and you must suck the marrow out of the bone and contemplate it and ponder it. And then times you're not going to agree, and it's okay. Non-agreement is okay. You do not have to think that everything he thought was perfect. Don't sweat that. Don't think if you don't agree with one part that the rest of it is not any good. Not so. Hopefully over time, though, there'll be more and more opportunities for you to realize what his own influences and why some of the things seem a little convoluted. Because anybody knows anything knows that Ernest Holmes has contradicted himself more than once right in the textbook. And it's okay. Okay, the opening chapter said, the philosophy of spiritual mind healing is based upon the conception that we are living in a universe of intelligence, a spiritual universe, that thoughts are things, that definite states of consciousness, as they become subjective, operate through a creative field and tend, and if I could do this, I would underline that word tend for you right now, to reproduce themselves in form. Tend. Tend sounds like it's not a guarantee. Imagine that. Here we are talking about spiritual mind treatment and everything is possible and God always says yes and the subconscious always says yes and then he says tend. That's kind of like, yeah, maybe sometimes, I don't know, I think. That's kind of what you could read into this. So it's important that we pay attention to if he's saying tend, I'll take note. I don't know if that was intentional or if, I don't know, if the publisher let it through. I don't know. The difference between tend to demonstrate and demonstrating are many, many things. The difference is your personality, your faith, your conviction, and then everything that is outside your own understanding. The things that were adopted from our ancestors, the things that were adopted unconsciously. We have our conscious mind, we have our subconscious mind, and there is an unconscious portion of our mind which is so deep, and thank God for that, because that is where our heart beats and our breath. We breathe without having to think, oh, should I breathe now? Yes, breathe. No, we have the body heals because of all the conditioning that is in that part of our mind, in our brain. But there is also a place in us, and somewhere between the unconscious and the subconscious, where the conditioning of the world and humanity has left an imprint, a thumbprint. Okay, so if you're not demonstrating, it might be not obvious and not visible to you, and you might not quite be able to put your finger on it all the time, which is what makes this teaching impossible at times. Why so many people walk away, because if you don't have the stamina to stay in the conversation, you're going to look at it and go, oh, forget this. Because this, her Ernest Holmes said it, this is not a get rich quick teaching. Can you get rich? Yes. Can you get healthy? Absolutely. Can you be happier? Totally. Can you be in happier relationships? 100%. But you must work at it. When I was with you, and I want to put this in there, when I was with you on Friday night in Morristown a couple of weeks ago, I asked all of you to pay attention to a family member or members that you want to impact through being more loving and more non-judgmental and more conscious. And I'm bringing that back into the room, and I'm going to keep carrying that as a thread every time I speak to you. Because I'm asking you now, did you stay conscious to that? Did you accept the charge as I invited you to participate in it? And I hope you did. Because between causes and conditions, in there is consciousness. And it's our consciousness that carries all of these possibilities. As a matter of fact, wherever you are right now, and I really want you to do this out loud, I want you to repeat after me. I create by design. Beautiful. I am the place where love resides. Beautiful. And I remember my perfection always. I remember my perfection always. I just wanted to stick that in there because, see, now you and I collectively, we're starting to be a cause. We're going to be a cause in our own life. We're being a cause by focusing our attention on the outcome that we want. And when we do it collectively in this kind of a surrounding with people who are our posse, and we are a posse of people of positive thinking, we are a positive posse is what we are, a positive posse of possibility. Let's just have more fun with that iteration. Okay. But it's important that we give and receive in that way. It's so important. I had someone call me for a treatment the other day. And it was so beautiful. It was just like we shared this morning in S.O.M Sunday. Please come to S.O.M Sunday on occasion. Yes, a posse of positivity. I had this person call, and all she needed was someone to not believe her story. You see, you and I can be beautiful partners in this possibility simply by not believing someone's story in their head that they tell each other. Do you get that? That is so simple. You could almost miss it. I want to see you all. I'm going to switch the view. Do you get that? You could almost miss the beauty of that. Simply by not believing someone's negative story, you are actually part of the possibility of healing and transformation. Okay. On page 183 also, thought which is built upon a realization of the divine presence has a power to neutralize negative thought, to erase it, just as light has the power to overcome darkness, not by combating darkness, but by being exactly what it is, light. That sounds good, right? It sounds good. I'm going to be the devil's advocate today, though. It sounds good, but easily replicating that idea in life is a challenge because, again, we are being called to understand what is underneath. Because many of us, and here, right here, many of us are we're walking around functioning really well, but some of us are functioning on top of pain. Some of us are functioning on a certain amount of dysfunction. We're functioning by holding the pieces together. And I know this past year, some of us have been tested. Anybody want to give me an amen that this year tested your faith and all of that? Yes, but you are here. You came through. This is good. However, negating the negativity or denying the negativity to allow for healing is not as simple as that. You and I must be grounded in truth. And that groundedness means to have a relationship with the divine. And if you don't like that term, maybe you just like the idea of God. If you don't like that energy, if you don't like that intelligence, grab what works for you. Grab what works for you. But it in this teaching with the study, you are required to constantly, it's like bring your want to be this and your study to be this and bring those two things together more and more and more till you are in a state of surrender and allowing the greater intelligence to be your guide and the authority of your life. He also says on that page, treatment is for the purpose of inducing an interior awareness, an inner realization in the mind of the practitioner. Remember, we are all practitioners. We are just not all licensed. This is also on page 183, by the way, paragraph 3. In the mind of the practitioner pertaining to the spiritual perfection of the person for whom she is working. Okay. I am here to say to you, and we keep affirming this. If you're new in here, this is going to sound like science fiction. If you've been around a while, you're going to go, yep. There is only one of us. Right? Can I get? There's only one. Now that is a really big idea. That's a big idea. So that says it's me as Gade, and it's me as Desiree, and it's me as Barbara. Okay, there's only one, and then there's the many facets. So as goes the one, very poor English. As goes the one, goes the all. It is literally the all for one for all thing. It literally is that. Because there is no private good. And as I shift consciousness inside of me and as I heal, it impacts the greater one of us. So that's not a simple thing, though, because we want to work outside ourselves very often. We are on page 184.3. Here's a kicker. We are dealing with an impersonal principle. It will operate for one just as quickly as another because it is law. Dare to speak and to know that what you speak is the law unto the things spoken regardless of what conditions exist. Okay. Holy crap. I could speak on this subject, this paragraph, for days on end. Here in
flying high, you know how I feel.
Can someone please stop and mute your computer? Thank you. I don't know where that came from. As lovely as that was, a little musical interlude. Was that on purpose? Is somebody having fun with me? I can't see anyone saying yes.
Anybody unmuted, so I don't know.
That's really interesting. Well, all right, a little musical interlude. Often people don't like to think of this as an impersonal law because it sounds like it's an uncaring law. That's not so. God, spirit, life, intelligence cannot help but to show up on your behalf. But I see. But your behalf is governed by your consciousness. Your behalf is governed by your receptivity. So, to the degree that you are willing to accept and allow the intelligence to work, then right then it will activate itself through you. The beauty of it being impersonal is that if we look around the room and we say, I wish I was as talented as Ty. I wish I was as talented as Lynette. Oh, I wish I was rich as whoever the richest person is here. It is important to know that law that allowed that person to accept those gifts in the abundance, for them, it's available to you and I. It's completely available if you want it. Now, everything you want has a price. I got news for you. Let's be real. Everything you want has a price. Everything you want has a cost. And in order to have something to act, do you want to levitate? All right, maybe you want to levitate. Do you want to put the time and the energy and the practice it takes into levitating? That's the question. You have to just think, what am I willing to give and invest to have that outcome? But the law says yes. Now, here's the problem. This is where, excuse me one sec. Love the pollen. I love the pollen. Actually, before I tell you where the problem is, I'm going to tell you one more thing. On page one, oh my gosh, excuse me. On page 185, he talks about turn entirely away from the condition. Now, this part of the textbook, I think this is where Ernest Holmes and the teaching inadvertently started creating people practicing spiritual bypass. Can you get that? Because turning away from the condition, it's like the whole get thee behind me, Satan, like that whole thing, get thee behind me, Satan. And we want to move toward the, excuse me, toward the outcome. However, this must be conscious. If we look only toward what we want without being conscious, we might not pay attention to the anchors, the things that have kept us mildly limited. We must pay attention to our worldview. We must pay attention to the stuff that has kept us strapped. If you just think all is good, all is good, all is good, all is good, oh, sorry, folks. If you just think that all is good, and don't take your personality, and your belief system into consideration, you could be in danger of practicing spiritual bypass. Does everybody know what spiritual bypass is? I just realized not everybody does. Spiritual bypass is when we deny our individuality, our humanity. It's when if we were all be in a physical room right now and you walk in and someone says, "How are you?" Now, because you're in this posse of people, you think you're supposed to be okay. So instead of turning them and saying, honestly, I'm having a rough time right now, I don't feel well, you say, I'm good. And you completely deny what's really going on for you, that spiritual bypass. And then what happens is we do, no, I'm good, Neil, thank you. And then what happens is we do not honor the piece of us that's human. See, you can only be spiritual to the degree that you are human. We are spiritual humans. We are human spiritual beings. They're one and the same. One pod, one. So if I'm not really honest about what's going on for me, I'm going to be in the wrong kind of denial. And then I'm going to try to function on top of dysfunction. And that's the problem. I will be functioning on top of dysfunction. Is that clear? I want to see if you have a question about what I'm saying, you can even put it in the chat, because this is a really kind of complicated thing to ponder. If there's something you do not understand, Neil, let me know if a question comes up about it, if you will. So I want to go back to, I think I mentioned Gary Zukav, or maybe that was this morning. Gary Zukav wrote a book back in the 90s, I think, called Seed of the Soul. It was truly a brilliant book. Thick and kind of dry a little bit, but it's one of those books that has lots of wisdom and value in it. And the piece that I have remembered all these years, and I'm not a big one for remembering details, but the thing that I've remembered all these years, excuse me, is this. He created a distinction that we live either by our five senses or by our multiple senses, which is then also our intuition and anything beyond that, whatever it is that you believe. So when you and I try to function only in the world of the five senses, which I explained this morning, an easy example of that are like our police, our military, doctors, people that are builders, contractors. That's something for me to remember. Okay, people that are working in the world of form are working with the five senses. If we only work within the five senses and things we can measure, then we will not allow ourselves to elevate, to draw upon other resources of healing and transformation. When you talk about conditions and causes, conditions are in the world of the five senses. And you and I will have limited experiences if we only function in the five senses. Is this making sense? I need some kind of heads up, thumbs up, something. Okay. In the world of the five senses, we will always be limited to the reality that goes with that. When we go to the multi-sense and we include the greater understanding and the as we pointed out this morning, when we bring in quantum physics and the whole world of physics, and we find out that reality, as you and I have always thought it, is a bit different, because in this world of the five senses, no wait, I lost. See, I can't look at the chat. I got distracted. In the world of the five senses, everything is measured and limited. In the multi-sense world, there are other options. And I know what I was saying. In physics, we've learned now there's more space than matter. Right? We always thought that matter, that this was solid. Now, ever since, even with Troward, which is back in the 1890s, I think, what we thought of as solid is not solid. So if it's not solid, what keeps this thing being what it is? This is an effect. This is a condition. What keeps it being what it is? It is the cause. It is intelligence. It is agreement. It's because someone designed it with intention And that intention is intelligent, and it keeps things being what they are. Otherwise, even this table that my computer is resting on would devolve into nothing but moving molecules of stuff. Are you with me? So, what, Neil?
You do have a question.
Okay, what's the question?
This is from God Day. He's asking, is this kind of bypass necessary? If yes, what is the benefit? And if not, why is it being used today?
Oh, I see. Okay. Bypass is not something, thank you, Neil, and thank you for the question, Gade. Bypass is not something that is necessary. Bypass is the result of humans trying to please each other. That's what it is. It's me trying not, I try to make you not uncomfortable, because if I say I'm sad, or if I'm sad, you might get uncomfortable. So instead of me having you be uncomfortable, I say, I'm okay. And then by saying okay, you can be okay. It's a lot, it's kind of codependent, to be perfectly honest. I want to see the second part of your question though. Um, no, and bypass is not, no, I might have spoken too quickly. So spiritual bypass is something we want to raise our awareness of and avoid. But here now, thank you for the segue. There is a way to use the practice of spiritual denial. Denial, the way the old metaphysicians, our grandparents of metaphysicians taught it, was very powerful. This helps us to bridge the gap between what we want to believe and yet we're not there yet. So when you and I are looking at our checkbook and what we're seeing are zeros or low, but what we want is more, to use the denial step is to deny the authority of what we see. The doctor gives you a prognosis, a diagnosis, and you hear the diagnosis, but some part of you is a practicing metaphysician. So you're still going to take steps to take care of yourself. But what you're going to do is you're going to deny the authority of that diagnosis. Because when we deny the authority of the diagnosis, we become a greater authority and impact in our own lives. We become the cause to the condition of health. Does that make sense? Did I tie that together enough? Yeah, we okay? Good, okay. So what do we have to do? We have to stay in conversation with people in this posse. I'm doing that now for fun, but in this community. If not this one, others. Stay in community with people that affirm these ideas. We have to stay in spiritual practice. We have to use our word without thought about how it works. To go into a place of surrender. Don't worry about what is that. Like, back in the day, this is really back in the day, an old television set when they had tubes, right? And, if you look at the television, you want to know how it works, and you take all the tubes out and you pull it apart and it's no longer working. Okay, just watch the TV. Don't get so consumed with, oh, gee, how does God act upon the law that it's by means of me? Oh, it's an impersonal law. So that means that I don't have to think this through. I just know that don't worry about those details. Speak your word of power without regard of what empowers it. I mean, it's okay to have the understanding, But when you're speaking your word, do it boldly. I am a child of the beloved one. I assume that life is working for me on my behalf. I express all good and all health and all joy and all prosperity all the time. I know this for myself, and I know this for my family, and I know this for everyone I know. And you speak it boldly, directly. I mean, straight, without thinking, gee, am I doing this right? Of course, as long as you're in the direction of your desired outcome, you're doing it right. Are you hearing me? This is important. Stop waiting for something to happen. Speak your word every day. Speak your word aloud for your desired outcome and create by design. I said to Neil, it's really funny. I had a realization just before when we were getting ready, because I've spoken for years about either we create by design. That's right. We create by design or we create by default. Yet, everybody hear me. If you are in constant spiritual practice, if you are doing your healing work, which means forgiving yourself and others and clearing out the muck, if you are doing that, then what happens is the creating by default will work because your tendencies are powerful, potent, loving, positive tendencies. The only time we don't want to create by default is when we're negative and in pain and limiting. You get the distinction? So if you're in good spiritual practice and staying uplifted, you can afford to create by default because your default has been reared in a beautiful and loving way. Right? I'm letting that get in a little bit. So you and I are here for ourselves, and I'm going to keep charging you with this. You don't have to agree with family members, and I got news for you. You don't even have to like them. You don't have to like them all. You don't have to approve of their behavior. You don't have to hang out with them on Memorial Day weekend. You don't. But do yourself a favor and be the cause in the life of someone where they live inside of you. Where they live inside of you. You know, there's a story, I had it posted on Facebook, and I don't remember the name. There was the name of this farmer, an African-American farmer, and maybe somebody will tell me what it was. And what happened was he always grew this award-winning corn. And what he would do is he would share the seeds of his award-winning corn with the people in neighboring farms. And when someone asked him, well, why do you do that? He said, well, if you understand that the winds blow the seeds and the pollen from one field to the next, I want all the fields around me to be pollinated with fabulous seeds. If you and I are doing this for us alone, I got news for you. It's very limiting, and your life will never be expressed as much as you'd like to. You want to expand the expression of beauty and love? Make yourself hold inside of your heart and mind others in a most loving and accepting way. And that's how you and I become an impactful community for a world right now that often has some amount of pain and fear. We got it? I'm going to treat. So, if you will, change your position, shake yourself up a little bit, just get out of that space you've been in. Put your hands on your heart or on your belly and just touch the body temple. Let's get grounded in the body temple right now. And I'm going to boldly speak this word for you. Oh, my Lord, my Lord, my Lord, my love. The presence of God right now is here. The presence of love right now is here. And it is activating itself by means of each one of us in the most bold and beautiful way. I speak this word for everyone listening now and beyond. And I declare that we each have within our capacity the ability to be the consciousness of all love and all accepting and all healing and wholeness and completion and perfection. That you and I have the ability to know this truth, not for us alone, but for all. For all. I show up here to give of the self, to give of myself as an individual and as the whole of me. And I know each and every time I do that, there is simply greater beauty shared. This is whole and holy and oh so beautiful. I allow this word to be so right now as I allow that feeling to gently seep into all the conscious and the subconscious parts of my mind. And I accept it with a sacred yes for the goodness and the holiness of spirit and of everyone here. With great faith and conviction, I surrender this word. And so it is.